Check it out, Casper!
Hey everyone, and thanks for tuning in. Casper here, and thank you so much for all your wonderful comments on my previous one-of-a-kind hats in Team Fortress 2 video. Today we're doing something similar, but slightly different, because we're looking at all the hats that you guys mentioned to me in the comments on that video that I didn't cover. And some of them are one-of-a-kind, some of them are just super rare. And we are going to be looking at some weapons before people get a little bit touchy that, oh, I don't think that one's a hat. So you've been warned. We're going to start off with a couple of very unique unusuals. Now, I don't just mean very rare unboxed unusuals. We're going to look at some unusuals which are literally impossible to unbox. And the stories behind how they actually got into the game are very interesting. The most interesting, in my personal opinion, is the unusual spine-chilling skull. Now, this has got a haunted ghosts effect, but it's also, as you can see here by the green outline, it means it's got a quality of a community item. Now, you probably won't see this too often because it's typically reserved for self-made items. So for example, if I designed a hat and it got added to the game, Valve would gift me a self-made version of the hat. And that actually comes with its own particle effect. Not technically an unusual, but for all intents and purposes, it's got a particle effect. So this hat has got 2 particle effects. Now I didn't want to go and bother the guy who owns this hat and asks to take pictures. So here it is in SFM. And you'll understand in just a moment why I don't want to bother this guy. So the story behind this hat goes all the way back to, I believe, 2011. Unfortunately, this child, and I think he was 11 at the time, so he was quite young, and he had cancer. And there's this charity called Make-A-Wish, which essentially help people with cancer do one of their dreams, you know, one of their wishes, before they, unfortunately, potentially die. And this guy's dream was to go visit Valve, and he visited Valve, and from everything I've read, he had a great time. And then when he got home, they had gifted this hat to his account. It's completely unique. As I said, there's no way to unbox a spine-chilling skull. For those of you who aren't too familiar with the hat, the only way you can get even the hat on its own, you can't get it anymore. It was a promo item, so you can only trade for it. There's no way to get an unusual. So not only is this completely unique in so much that it's unusual, but also it's got this community sparkle effect on it. And as far as I'm aware, this kid has kicked cancer's ass. So good for you, my friend. And I'm so glad that you got a super awesome hat with this awesome little description that you've added to it to show for you kicking the ass of something that sucks so much. So good for you, my friend. Similarly styled hats. We've got a Sunbeam Max's Head, a Sunbeam's Ghastly Gibus, and there is also a Sunbeam's Cheater's Lament. Similar to the spine-chilling skull, all of these hats can only be obtained in a certain way, or they can no longer be obtained, and it's impossible to unbox these hats. You can't happen to get an unbox of one of these unusuals. They're completely unique in being unusual. Now, all of these hats were gained in similar way. The people who own these hats found bugs in Team Fortress 2, and Valve said, oh, thank you for reporting this bug to us rather than exploiting the bug and doing naughty things and ruining the game for other people. Here's your reward. And these bugs vary. I think one guy essentially found a way to double the amount of characters you could put on a description tag, and one of the other guys found a way to essentially give yourself any weapon by editing the code of the game. They were sort of errors that were easily exploitable if you knew what to do. So you can see there's a wide range there of things that could be reported, and Valve gave these rewards for. Now, interestingly, one of the exploits that was found by the guy who's got the Cheater's Lament actually enabled you to get a weapon which you cannot get any other way. The Deflector. Now, visually, this looks exactly like the regular minigun, but it is only available in MVM, the versus robots mode in Team Fortress 2. And the Deflector is a special weapon which the robot heavies can wield, which knocks back your projectiles. Now, obviously, there's no way for you to get this weapon. It's only programmed into the game in order for the MVM robots to use. But this guy found a way to give himself that weapon. So that in itself is a one-of-a-kind weapon in Team Fortress 2. He was the only person who ever gave himself this weapon. Now, unfortunately, Valve did take that away from him, but they did give him this hat as a reward. And of course, just before somebody points it out, there is at least 2 other unique, unusual hats. There's a list in the description, but these 3 I've just mentioned were the ones which were mentioned most in the comments. Another thing which was also mentioned a lot in the comments, and is very similar to these hats, is the finder's fee. Now, the way you get the finder's fee is essentially the same way that you would have got these unusuals. Now, for whatever reason, I'm not sure the backstory behind it, but Valve have decided to start giving this hat rather than unique unusuals. And honestly, it's not as cool. I think most of you will agree. It's also not one of a kind. When I counted on the wiki page, there's 14 different hats. However, that is divided up between 5 or 6 people. So almost everyone, or I think literally everyone, who has found a bug in Team Fortress 2, which has been significant for Valve to give them this reward, since it was introduced that is, they have found at least one other bug of the similar level. And of course, it's not just this hat, it does also have an unusual effect. Unfortunately, you're never going to be able to get yourself an unusual Ellis's cap, for example, or a Maniversary hat. Oh, I would love an unusual one of those. Fortunately, not going to happen, but you will get an unusual finder's fee if you find a serious bug and you report it, and obviously don't be a dick and exploit it. Now, another extremely rare hat is the Lo-Fi Longwave. Now, this is a hat which represents Kritzkast, which is a weekly TF2 podcast run by the community, and of course, there's a hat in the game, so it's officially endorsed by Valve. Now, it's been running all the way back since August 2008, and it's an extremely dedicated weekly podcast about TF2. So if you've never listened to it and you are a big TF2 fan, a growing TF2 fan, or a veteran TF2 fan, there's going to be something there for everyone, so do check it out if you haven't already. Now, I was actually lucky enough to speak to Aggro, who's one of the main guys at Kritzkast, a little bit about this hat, and he let me in on a little bit of information about how it came into the game. There was a competition originally which tested your knowledge about Kritzkast, and only those who scored particularly well in this quiz were given a hat originally. Hats now are also still given out for various competitions on Kritzkast, so you can get one of them yourself. And of course, there's people like me who are just considered, I guess, broadly influencers, is the term that you see most marketeers using these days to describe people who do YouTube or write blogs or manage websites or whatever, who also get them. So thank you very much for giving one to me. I've been aware of this hat for many years, so to actually get one is truly flattering. Thank you so much. And I do know, also from speaking to Aggro, that there is a limited, finite amount. So according to Backpack TF, there's around 5,000 right now. Now, I didn't want to poke Aggro for too much information because, to be honest, I like the mystery a little bit. I don't know how many there could possibly be, but he definitely confirmed they're finite. So let's just pluck a number out of the air. Let's say once 6,000 have been given out, there will never be any more. So if you are hoping to get this hat one day, the sooner you enter those Kritzkast competitions, the better. So here's a hat I saw mentioned a lot in my one-of-a-kind comments. Now, I was thinking, okay, guys, I know it's rare, but you're being a bit silly here. Randolph, the blood-nosed caribou. Now, this is a Christmas hat, which was actually part of a set, not a set which all came together, but a set which were all released at the same time, which included all of these hats you see on screen right now. And once upon a time, Valve would do a little bit more with their summer and winter sales, where there would be like a mini game based around Steam. Quite often that involved playing free-to-play games and doing certain achievements. Other times it involved simply crafting badges. So in this instance, you just had to craft badges using the winter sale trading cards. And when you did that, you got a chance of earning an item in either Dota 2, Path of Exile, Ragnarok Online 2, Realm of the Mad God, Spiral Knights, Star Conflict, Stronghold Kingdoms, Team Fortress 2, War Thunder, or Warframe. What I'm saying is, just because you crafted this badge and you happen to play Team Fortress 2, you weren't guaranteed an item from Team Fortress 2. And also, as you saw, there was 6 different Team Fortress 2 items you could get, and they all varied in rarity. The most common one, according to Backpack TF, there's around 22,000 of them. The least common one, the one which you guys mentioned the most, Randolph, the blood-nosed caribou. Now, originally, again, according to Backpack TF, and I'm sure this will be verified by people who witnessed it and people who've looked on other stats websites, there was at least 2. There was at least 2 of this hat, but for some reason, one of them stopped existing. On or around May 3rd this year, one of the hats disappeared. Now, it's hard to know whether one guy decided to delete his hat, or maybe it's just a private backpack issue, or God knows what. But now it seems to be a one-of-a-kind hat. Now, the thing that I can't work out is whether Valve ever intended it to be a super rare hat. Obviously, they intended it to be rare, but I'm wondering, did they set it so a maximum of 2 could ever exist? Or did they just set that sort of random number generator extremely low, and maybe 4 could have existed, or maybe 0 could have existed? Or did they make it so there was definitely 2? Who knows? But the fact of the matter is, you guys definitely seem to be right here, and it is a one-of-a-kind hat. Now, here's the bit where we talk about some weapons. One weapon that is mentioned a few times is the painted Cow Mangler. That is right, there was a brief period of time due to a bug or an oversight on Valve's part that you could paint the Cow Mangler, and for whatever reason, only with team coloured paints. sticking with our favourite backpack.tf charts, there is at least 7 in existence at the moment. And here's a picture which shows what these colours look like. So you can see they're not massively different, but the fact is it is genuinely painted. It does genuinely render in game. Now, a couple of other people mentioned to me that Ubersaur and the Vitasaur were paintable at some point. I wasn't able to find too much information about this, but what I was able to find seemed to suggest to me that even though you could technically apply paint, it wouldn't actually show any difference on the item. So that's what's especially cool about this painted Cow Mangler, is that you can actually see actual painted parts on the weapon. Now, I mentioned the Valve rocket launcher in the previous video, and many of you guys were keen to point out that there's definitely other Valve weapons, and the one that most of you seem to be aware of was the Valve Eyelander. Now, sure enough, taking a look in Robin, the TF2 developer's backpack, there was not 1, but 3 Valve Eyelanders and a Valve Charge and Targe. Now, unlike the Valve rocket launcher, which has got insane stats, all these Eyelanders appear to have completely regular Eyelander stats on them. However, they all seem to have an unusual effect on them. One of them has flying bits, one of them has invalid particle, and one of them has got particle 1. Now, I'm sure, again, there's people out there who know enough about the code behind this game to say, actually, this translates to effect, blah, 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 blah. But the fact is, he's a Valve developer, so he's put unusual effects on his weapons. I was able to find this one video clip on YouTube from Fabry Design, which appears to show the Eyelander that's actually Robin using it with the flames on it. So you get an idea of what this would have looked like. But hey, maybe if Robin ever plays the game again, we get another chance to look at this. And of course, unusual weapons are a thing now anyway, so this is probably quite possible. So I'm really sorry if I missed anyone's suggestion for a weapon or a hat in this video, but I hope you found what I did cover quite interesting. On the screen right now is my coolest unused content in Team Fortress 2 video, quite similar to this one. And why not try something completely different? My top 10 favourite maps in Team Fortress 2. It shows a bit more of my personality and humour in it, if you think you're gonna like that. And of course, if you aren't subscribed, there's the option for that too. Thanks everyone, and goodbye.